Good morning. And today I want to talk about something that we're going to use throughout the course of this semester, and that is the principles of art. So, just to recap, in Art 1, you learned about the elements of art. Let me shift my face out of the way here, or not. There we go. The elements of art were really the focus of what we talked about in Art 1, and those elements are line, shape, form, value, space, color, texture, and Mr. G and I have added typography to that. If you are taking this class after, typography is really the visual representation of language. That includes both font and whatever specific language it is written in. So those are the elements of art. To recap, I always say that the elements of art are the alphabet that we speak with when we're dealing with visual imagery. Every sentence, song, book, paragraph is all made up of individual letters, and so these make up every visual piece that we look at. And so if the elements of art are the alphabet that we're working with, the principles of art are the grammar that we speak with. Let me get myself out of the way again there. And this is what we use to organize the elements of art, or the tools that we use to make art. Now, I'm not using tools there to talk about like the things that we make art with, but rather these are like the conceptual tools that we're using when we put together a piece of art, whether we realize it or not. So the first principle of art, or principle of design is another way they're called, is balance. And balance is the way the elements are arranged to create a feeling of stability within a work, or instability. There are three main types of balance. One is symmetrical balance, as we can see with the Last Supper here. And that's where parts of the image are organized so that one side mirrors another, or that there's a sense of symmetry within that, whether that's a vertical alignment or a horizontal symmetry. Symmetrical balance is mirroring each other. We can also have asymmetrical balance, which really is like when there isn't that sense of patterning, but the things are still relatively balanced. So in this painting, we have the woman in black being balanced out roughly by the curtain. This happens a lot more organically as we plan out our compositions, where we have a large kind of dark, heavy object or visual representation of something on one side, and so we're working on balancing that out without repeating that thing. So asymmetrical balance is a second way that we can balance things within a piece, and it's when one side of the composition does not reflect the other. A third is radial balance, and radial balance is any type of balance based on a circle with its design extending out from the center of that circle. So even though that Alfonso Mucha piece on the right there is not a full-blown, like her head is sitting in the middle of the piece and her head's not repeating, the rest of the design of that is very radial in nature. So balance is our first principle of design. Our second principle is contrast. And contrast is when there's a big difference between two things used to create interest or tension. So in Art 1, we talked about contrasting light to dark, so contrasting values. We talked about contrasting colors, talked about contrasting textures, and really contrast is how we make our pieces interesting and make the subject matter stand out from the background. Number 3 is emphasis. How do we emphasize something within artwork? Emphasis is the focal point of an image, or when one area or thing stands out the most. So both of these artworks use different techniques, different elements to create emphasis, where we are looking at the subject matter that artist wants us to look at. Fourth, I think we're at, is movement. And so movement is the path that the viewer's eye takes throughout an artwork, often to a focal area. And it can use lines, edges, shapes, colors. There are a lot of ways that we can create that sense of movement within a piece of art. Van Gogh is kind of the king of movement with his short dashes of paint. As we can see in Starry Night, our eye is just naturally flowing along those air currents or that wind as we move through the night sky. So movement is the path your eye takes through an artwork. Pattern and repetition both go together. That is when we repeat a design or have a similar thing going over and over and over again. Pattern, as you can see in the text of that, is alternating back and forth between two things, where repeating is having that same form repeated all the way down. The Gustav Klimt piece there, The Kiss, has this black and white kind of repetition of shapes patterning down, where on the left we've got a much truer pattern there. Rhythm and movement are just similar to pattern and repetition, but it moves your eye through. It's a regular repetition of elements used to produce the look and feel of movement. So in Marcel Duchamp's Bride Descending the Staircase here, you're looking at this form kind of moving throughout that piece. Unity is one of our last principles of design. Unity is making everything feel like it's together, that it's unified. This can be used through the color palette. This can be used through the shapes used. Unity is like bathing everything in the same light. So as we look at this Vermeer painting, this woman's opening the window, and we can see that both she and the wall and the objects on the table have that same coloring because of the same light coming through the window. So it's when all the elements and principles work together to create a pleasing image. So we've got a couple extras. Variety is the use of differences to change or increase the visual interest in the work. And so using a variety of colors, a variety of shapes, a variety of just all the elements together in different ways creates a more intense visual interest. And the sense of proportion. So proportion is the comparative relationship from one part of a piece to another in respect to size, quantity, degree, or scale. So in this painting, we've got the man and the woman who are closer to us, much larger than the objects that are farther away. If you visually take that, that man is almost twice the size of the building there, as far as the visual space taken up. And so proportion is important, especially when trying to capture that sense of illusionism. So those are our principles of art, or our principles of design. I want you to keep those in mind as we create artwork all semester and all year long, and to carry those with you.